Good evening and welcome back to NoQuipSports, your no bullshit source of sports information. Happy Election Day. Hopefully you're getting out and voting today. But now let's just dive right into it. So originally I was not going to talk about last night's game, but a lot of news, a lot of interesting things happened. First of all, during the game there was, right at the end of the half, there was a lot of business that happened that was very sketchy, in my opinion, on both sides of the ball and from the referees. So here's what happened in very short form. Buffalo's trying to go for a kick. Richard Sherman crosses the line super early, and he goes to block the kick still because he didn't hear a whistle. That's what every football player is trying to do. Dan Carpenter, whack, hits his knee, which is roughing the kicker off of Sherman, and then that wasn't called. Instead, it was some other call. It didn't make sense, but it wasn't a roughing the kicker call is the point of the story. So what happens here is the trader comes out to attend to Dan Carpenter. Dan Carpenter isn't hurt, or at least not as badly as it seemed. He gets back up to try and play again, but unfortunately, because they didn't call roughing the kicker, he has to come off the field. So instead, they spike the ball. Then the field goal team comes back out, and Dan Carpenter can make the kick. However, then what happens is the referee is standing over the ball for 20 seconds out of the 25 on the play clock, and in addition to that, I feel like this referee knew that he was doing something wrong, because then, if you noticed, if you're watching closely, the same referee that was standing over the ball, instead of coming out and sitting behind the linebackers like he normally would, he was actually pushing some of the Seattle players to get on the ball and snap it. I feel like he knew he was wrong. Anyways, point of the story, they nail that kick, but instead, at 6 seconds after the clock hits double zeros, after they additionally waited 20 seconds to let them even approach the ball, they nail them with delay of game, move them back 5 yards. Dan Carpenter actually nails that kick that they called a penalty, and then on top of all that, what they do is they have him kick it again, and this time the ball wavers way left, and then it wavers all the way right and still misses. So that's how they went into halftime with Buffalo, which is hilarious. Now, here's the thing. After the game, Dean Blandino actually he called in to NFL Network, and he was explaining the call, and he said, yeah, you know, our guys were actually very, very wrong, is essentially what he said. And then the NFL Network was trying to cover it up and be like, yeah, you know, here's the thing, like, of course, you know, it didn't really affect the end of the game. But here's the thing. In the final drive of the game, they were down by 6 points, which means that they were trying, and with no timeouts, and there was a minute to go, so they were trying to go for a touchdown to win, because a field goal wouldn't have done anything at that time. And they blew all their timeouts, or sorry, Seattle blew all their timeouts, thinking that if they got a touchdown, then they would need to give Russell Wilson as much time as possible to also score a touchdown, or in their case, they could have actually gone for a field goal. Point of the story, though, they were down by 6 points. Had they hit the 3 at the end of the half, they would have been able to go for it their 3 tries. They would have been able to go for the win. And then on the 4th try, which they had plenty of time for, they could have then kicked a field goal. Now, in addition to that, at the very end of the game, I don't know if anybody noticed this, at the very bottom of the screen, like right about here on your screen, the wide receiver from Buffalo went down the field. The cornerback was sitting in the end zone and just laid him out, like right on his back, and it wasn't called. And the game can't end on a defensive call, and in addition, that would have stopped the clock yet again, so they would have had potentially 1, maybe 2 more attempts to throw it in the end zone before kicking it, which still would have tied the game, assuming that they didn't screw up all the calls at the end of the first half. So, anyways, as a sports fan, not a fan of Buffalo, not a fan of Seattle. That was a load of crap. Anyways, in addition to that, at least Seattle didn't have to make a decision on running the ball in the end zone to win the game. And on that note, we're going to talk about the Seattle short week game versus the New England, who's coming off the bye. So, Seattle, currently they're 5-2-1. Let's talk a little bit about the New Orleans-Seattle game. Some implications from this. Here's the thing, is Drew Brees and the Gunslingers outdid them by just enough. Okay? I believe the game was 25-20, something like that. And then Brady, here's the thing about Brady, he has far more firepower and is far more consistent as well. I don't think that Seattle's going to have a chance personally. Seattle also, in addition to that, they could not perform against one of the worst defenses in the league. I mean, literally, you could do anything to them. Same with the Atlanta defense. You could do anything to them, and you'll probably do something successful by accident. So their rushing defense is the worst. You couldn't capitalize on it. New Orleans' top performers, even though they won, were all significantly worse than the Seattle top performers. It was unbelievable. From last night's game, here's the thing: is they actually had a pretty nice bounce back week, even though the win was, in my opinion, not really legitimate. It was a very hard-fought game on either side of the ball. Seattle defense did not look like the touted defense that they claimed to be. It just, I don't know. They talk it up so much, but it didn't really look as good as it should have been. Having said that, Buffalo somehow is a very efficient offense, and they actually do some things pretty well. Their impact players, Russell Wilson's back and he's healthy. He looked great last night, I think. In addition, Christian Michael has been doing pretty well. Tom Rawls, not sure if he's going to actually play at this point in the season. It's kind of upsetting. He's also my fantasy team, so there's that. Receivers, Jimmy Graham, a.k.a. Captain One Hand. He absolutely lit the world on fire last night. It was really good. I think he's going to be a key guy for Belichick to cover up. In addition to that, they got Doug Baldwin. Their other receivers are all pretty good, but the thing is that none of them really have any consistency, and I'm going to group Doug Baldwin into that. He does get about 4 or 5 balls a game, but compared to how many times he's targeted, I feel like that's not a great number for him. Also, C.J. Spiller, who they actually theoretically could need, they did release him a couple weeks back. Then for injuries, the 2 big ones that I noted were Michael Bennett and Cam Chancellor. Not sure if they're going to play against New England, but that'll be a big game changer just because they bring the boom, so to speak. Their defensive weaknesses, don't really have any. They didn't look that way last night, but I guess they have the second-ranked defensive front. And then in addition, their rushers going against them, they give them the 6th least running yards per game, and receivers are given the 10th least yards per game. Typically, offenses that beat Seattle do a lot of short, quick passes or unintentional pick routes, or even seam routes right up the middle, which is exactly what Tom, Gronk, and Edelman love to do. So we'll see how that goes. Their offensive line, just to give you an idea real quick, they're 30th ranked offensive line in the league. Not good. Okung is the captain of consistency on their team, well as Britt is actually causing a lot of problems directly up the middle. So anyways, then you got New England. We got 7-1. We're coming off the bye week. It's a Super Bowl rematch. And here's the thing. Historically, this game has always been very, very close. In this game, the recent moves that kind of affect things a little bit, linebacker defensive end Jamie Collins was sent to Cleveland for a conditional 3rd or 4th round pick. This is actually a very controversial thing, although I'm not really sure why. Honestly, I mean, I don't want to blanket statement, be like, it's Belichick, he knows what he's doing, no big deal. But there had to have been a lot of good reasons for that. You don't just throw a guy away like that, especially burying him in Cleveland. So I think there's a lot of very key things, such as burying him in Cleveland, that actually brings a lot of value to the Patriots this season, even though technically they did get worse on defense because of it. Tight end A.J. Derby was sent to Denver for a 5th round pick. Not sure why you'd do that. The guy actually looked pretty guy looked pretty good in preseason. And then also, in addition to that, along the way, we got linebacker Kyle Van Noy from Detroit. Not super pumped. I don't feel one way or the other. He's kind of a guy. If I see him out in the field, that'll be interesting, but that's about it. Impact players, obviously you got Mr. Brady, you got Mr. Gronkowski, Mr. Edelman, Mr. Bennett, Mr. Blunt, Mr. White, Mr. Amendola, and Mr. Hogan. Quite the group that you got there, all with different fun, interesting stories that help the team out quite a bit. The reason that all of those guys are impact players is because those guys are all exactly what the Patriots are going to need to beat the Seattle Seahawks, just because of their defensive weaknesses and things like that. And so for injuries, we've got Edelman's foot. There's quite a few more because the Patriots list anything and everything to try and confuse the other team. Typically, that's my interpretation of it. It'll be a season-long thing, his foot. Until the end of the season, he won't really be able to fix it because, the foot, it's the highest impact thing compared to like consistently the highest impact. You use it every single down, you use it every single practice, the whole bit, until the very end of the season, in which you can finally kick them up and maybe get some rest for it. So that'll always be a problem until the end of the season. Defensive weaknesses, we're the 11th ranked in the league, which is shocking, to me at least. The rushers are typically given the 15th least yards per game, and receivers are typically given the 6th least yards per game, which also is very interesting and very telling, because what that implies to me is that the system of let it happen in front of you is actually working very, very well, because we don't want anything to go over the top, which is where defenses tend to lose a lot of yards to. So we try to make you beat us with the run game, which is nice. Our offensive line, 25th ranked in the league. Not great. I personally am a big fan of Nate Solder, Josh Klein. They have been so great. I was also at the game where Nate Solder caught that touchdown, aka the Deflategate game. And then Cameron Fleming and Marcus Cannon will forever confuse me as to why they're even a part of this team and why Marcus Cannon is getting paid what he's getting paid. It just totally blows my mind. But having said that, though, Dante Scarnecchia is back. You know, obviously this is very, very old news, and it's a big deal to me. So anyways, at the end of the day, I think New England beats Seattle. I think it's going to be a very, very convincing win as well. But at the same time, like I said earlier, it's typically a very, very close game, so we'll see what happens. All right, our bye week team state of affairs. Buffalo is coming in at 4-5 off of a short week. Those lucky, lucky guys. See, the reason I call them lucky is because not many teams get that ability to have a short week and then jump right into a bye. They really got the easy route, or the easy way out. Either or, really, kind of drives me nuts. As you know, they lost last night. I think it was a load of crap, but that's just me. They're coming in ranked 3rd in the AFC East, and I'm going to have to do a lot more research into how the officials get checked and balanced during the games, on plays that don't require video review, because somebody brought this up to me the other day. They said, what happens to an official during a game to check them, if it's not during a video review? Because if there's no video review, there's nobody from New York is in their ears, and they can't, so what happens if there's confusion like that? So I'm going to look into that a little bit more, because Dean Blandino completely roasted them live on NFL Network. So we'll see how that goes. Detroit is coming in at 5-4. They're ranked 2nd in the NFC North. Now, here's the thing is, while they're on the bye, they could actually get launched up into 1st place, assuming that Minnesota and Green Bay lose. Currently, by my picks, I am not predicting that. I think they'll actually drop to 3rd because Minnesota will win. They'll have a higher home and away, and then Green Bay already has a higher home and away. It's just a matter of stacking on one more win. So that'll be interesting. There'll be a lot of movement in the NFC North this week, even though they'll be sleeping at home resting. And then in their previous game, they actually won against Minnesota, which was gigantic for them, which is why they're in the position they are, where if Minnesota loses. But it was a complete shocker. It was a big win on the road. However, here's the thing about Detroit. Every single one of their wins are come from behind, at the very last second. So there's no way that they can continue to ride that, but it does show a lot, assuming they make a playoff berth, about how they can be clutch in those situations. So then we've got Indianapolis coming in also at 4-5, ranked 2nd in the AFC South. Their previous game, they actually beat Green Bay, which was gigantic, 31-26. Here's the thing, this game was also a total shocker, because but also at the same time really not. And here's the reason is Indianapolis defense, I don't think they understand what a running back is. But as you know, Green Bay, no running backs. And in addition to that, they made the smartest move on the planet, which was to get rid of Niall Davis, who's actually a very legitimate backup running back, granted. But when you don't have any running backs and you need a running back, and he's actually a very good running back, then you release him and you put Ty Montgomery in the backfield, who's a wide receiver. Granted, he's been doing very, very well. But still, how do you not play Niall Davis? You don't play him. I don't get it. Anyways, hopefully James Stark comes back soon. I'm pretty sure that Eddie Lacy's out for the season. So, it is what it is. Oakland, my love for Oakland has been truly renewed. I actually really do and always have liked this team a lot. However, the stipulation to that is if the Patriots are playing them, I'm rooting for the Patriots to win. Now, presently, they are ranked first in the AFC West. They had a huge win against Denver, which was 30-20, which is also gigantic because Denver and the Patriots in the Super Bowl, but that's another thing. It was a fantastic game. They made their defense look awful. They swallowed up their offense, which, you know, I don't think Trevor Siemian's really ready anyways. And in addition, they've been averaging about 30 points per game, except for, like, maybe 1 or 2, but, like, generally speaking, they are very, very close to 30 points, or they're way over. So they're finding many different ways to exploit defenses, and it's just like a really, really, really exciting thing to watch. So anyways, for all of you out there, please remember to like, comment, share, tell me that you liked the video, start a conversation, and then, you know, tell your friends about it, maybe have them jump in. Subscribe. That would be really great, and then you can get these videos every day, and you don't have to go looking for them, because it's hard to find me at the moment. So, anyways, everybody, have a great day. Go football.